Lindsay, we are good to go.
Okay, we're on and ready. Okay. My name is Lindsay Webb. I'm an educator with GK, and today we're going to be doing a balayage, kind of foliage color on, this is actually my niece. It's Monday, so sometimes it's hard to get models midday, so she got volunteered for this. Today, the application that we're going to do, it's going to give that really nice kind of little bit brighter pieces throughout, but it's still going to maintain her depth. She's got beautiful, kind of dark chocolatey brown hair. We previously have done kind of a lighter caramely balayage into her. And today we're just going to give it a little more pop, a little more brightness. But this is going to be a technique that's like a quick, kind of easy thing for you to do in the salon and with your clients to get that little bit of impact. It's going to give just kind of that summer brightness, but still maintain her depth and everything with that. Today, we're going to be using our lightening powder, and primarily it's just because of the level of her hair. I want to make sure I get the most lift possible. And again, it's a fairly quick processing time, so I really want to be able to get that lift, and this is really nice for that. To get up to that 9 levels of lift, depending on what level of developer you're using, whether you process with heat, open air, within foil, it's great for that. It also, you'll see as I get it mixed up, and I'll show you, it does have that little bit of blue base to it, so it's going to help cut out any brassiness. Her hair does lighten really, really nice, but we tend to do kind of more of a caramely tone, so it'll be kind of fun to get a few little brighter pieces in her today. With the mixing, it is a 1-to-2 ratio. Sometimes that varies a little bit just depending on the consistency that you prefer working with. And then as with all of our lighteners, developers, our whole color line, everything within it also contains the GKHair, which is the anti-aging protein blend that if you're familiar with GK, that's kind of the #1 thing within all of our products. It really helps maintain the hair's integrity, helps prevent breakage, it adds shine, just kind of all the good stuff that's involved with, those proteins and making sure that we maintain the moisture and the strength in the hair. So I'm going to go ahead and get mixing here. Pull you in a little bit just so you can see a little better. And I do always use my scale for measuring. We have the GK scale. It's great. I always also do my formulation in grams. You can get a lot more precise measurements that way. And also it helps to prevent wasting product and that type of thing. I tend to mix a little, a smaller amount. I'd rather mix more if I have to. Like I said, on her, it's going to be, this is kind of a quicker balayage. It's not going to be your traditional balayage where you're going to have a bunch of lightness through the ends, but it's not necessarily going to go all the way to the roots either. It's going to give just kind of that sun-kissed kind of ribbons of color throughout her hair. So with this, I'm going to start with about 15 grams of lightener. And like I said, it's a 1-to-2 ratio. And on her, I am going to use 20 volume. So we have our 15 grams of lightener. So that's going to be 30 grams of developer. And then we'll go ahead and get that mixed up here. And I will show you the consistency here as soon as I get it mixed. Another thing that I always do with every client that I lighten, highlight, whether it be the lightening powder, the lightening cream, the bombshell lightener, is I also always add in, so this is kind of the consistency that it's at right now. And I also always add the shield additive to it. The shield additive, it's just kind of your insurance for your color. It's going to add a little more of that Juvexin. It's going to help really maintain those protein bonds within the hair, prevent breakage. And then a lot of, I know, protein type additives that you add to color, you do have to shift your level of developer. With the Shield additive, you do not. You just do exactly 10% of your formulation. So with this, we did 15 grams of lightener, 30 grams of developer, so that's 45. So we're going to do 4.5 grams of the Shield additive. So it's 10% of your total formulation. You can use this in color, lightener, anything with color. It's going to help prevent a little bit more of the fadage that's going to happen with color and help maintain those bonds in the hair also. Comes in a couple different types of packaging. I do always have the larger size on hand for my own back bar reasons. And like I said, I did 4.5 grams of that because our total formulation was 45. And I do always pre-mix the lightener and developer and then add this. And it does thin it out just a little bit, kind of take that into consideration, but it's going to still be a nice working consistency. And I do, like I said, make sure I get it mixed completely. There's background noise, my window's open there. Okay, so again, it's not super runny. It is holding together for sure. And then today for the application, even though we are using foil, I still am going to be using it's technically our balayage brush. It's a really, really nice brush. It has nice soft bristles to it. It's kind of hard to see in this lighting, but they kind of come to a point and feather out rather than having a super hard line to them. So that's the brush that I'm going to be using with that. Get all my stuff over here, sorry. And like I said, this is a quicker application. Typically, for this, I would be able to do a full application in 30 minutes or less. And sorry, I was just trying to hit the lighting there. So with hers, we are going to be placing right along her hairline, about 3 on the sides and maybe 4 to 5 on the top. And I'll kind of show you how I do that placement. And that's going to get kind of that nice brighter pieces right around there. So if she does wear her hair up, you'll be able to see, a little more brightness going through the hairline. And then just add a little more pop of light around her front. And of course, I always section it out here. Get that out of the way. I want to make sure we have good angle here so you can see what I'm doing. Pump her up just a little. So for right on her hairline, she has a ton of hair, but she does have a lot of those little finer hairs right around the front. So what I'm going to really try to do as I section this out is I'm actually going to pull some of those little ones out. It's going to help prevent any lines or anything like that. So as you can see, her hairline is a little bit more diffused. So I'm going to cut back to right where it starts to look a little bit fuller. And that's going to be about a 1/4 inch sectioning on that. And so again, like I said, I'm going to make sure I leave out all those little babies right around the front. And I'm going to do a really nice fine weave right into there. And her hair, it is that darker kind of, she has beautiful kind of chocolatey brown tone to her hair. So this is just going to add that little pop of lightness in there, but not have like a hard kind of grow outline as it does grow out. And with this, I am really trying to make sure I get right kind of up on that hairline. But again, very, very fine pieces, that really nice, fine kind of baby light to it. And then I'm taking about a 1/4 inch sectioning again right here. And she has those little guys there. So I'm going to leave those out. And a lot of the reasoning for that is it helps kind of keep that hairline diffused. So as her hair does grow, she doesn't have a hard grow out there. Again, just do that baby weave there. And with the lightener, I do, I don't oversaturate the brush by any means. And I start about 1/4 1/2 inch from the actual scalp there. I don't go all the way up, which I will as soon as I get all of this applied here. I will move up and make sure we're hitting nice and close there. And like I said, I'm going to do about 3 foils right on this hairline. And give a nice little weave to that. And making sure that those little guys are out there. I do really like that little bit of pop of brightness right around that front. It gives a little more impact, especially like visually as she's, going to see herself in the mirror. Obviously, by looking at her, she's one of my younger ones. She's 15. And so I really typically try to do something that is, with the younger clientele, it's going to wear really nice. They're not going to have to worry about coming in and getting touch up, every 6 to 8 weeks. It's going to have that nice gradual grow out. So I do those 3 there. And then I'm going to flip sides here. I'm going to turn her around. Try not to spill anything. Oops. Got the brakes on, sorry. And again, I'm going to section this top area out here. You might actually be able to see what I'm doing a little bit better from this angle. So again, taking that nice diagonal parting, following right along her hairline. And we're about 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch from that very first part of her hairline there. And we're going to pop right behind. And I do always like to follow their hairline. Obviously some people's, more straight, more at an angle. You can tell hers, I'm just following right along with the diagonal there. I'm going to do a nice soft weave right there. And again, don't oversaturate your brush, just enough to make sure we're getting, good coverage on the hair. And again, I start, about 1/4 1/2 inch from the actual scalp there. And then we will come up and just kind of touch it a little bit closer. I'm not trying to get that super heavy saturation. That kind of prevents any bleeding or any issues like that. And I don't typically always double fold, but on the hairline right around here, I do, just so we don't get any slippage or anything, just since it is quite a bit finer pieces around here. And again, we're doing about a 1/2 inch sectioning. Nice light foil weave there. And feel free, as we're going through, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. A nice light touch up closer to the root there. So that's 2, and we're going to do a third one. And typically with, you know, that quote unquote money piece or just that brightness around the front, I do kind of like to follow the ear line and stay in front of that with the heavier foiling through there. Again, nice and soft with the blending up to that root area. You don't want too much product up there. You don't want any, you know, bleeding or slipping of the foils there. So we have that side done. We're going to turn around here. And now I'm going to move up to the front hairline. And on the front hairline, nobody's hairline is completely straight. We all know that. So I do tend to actually kind of start from the back and work forward. It's just a little bit easier for me to know kind of where that is going to start. So I will take my sectioning here. And she is, you know, the typical middle part kind of gal, as what's been on trend as of late. And that's just kind of where her hair goes. So that's where we work it. So on hers, this is her front section. I'm basically following a line from where the last foil was on each side and connecting those two. This is the not fun part with the foil in your hair, so, or the foil, the hair in your eyes, sorry. So from here, I'm actually going to take my small section. This is going to stay down out of the way. We're going to give it a nice light weave. And in this front section, we are going to be doing it a little bit heavier again. I want that brightness, that impact. So we're actually going to be paneling the foils on top of each other. Again, I'm going to start about 1 inch down. Make sure we get that good coverage there. And on this first one, again, I'm just very lightly kind of feathering it up higher. Okay, so we have this section or this foil here done. So we're gonna actually come right below it. And with like basically every other, we're kind of paneling, but there will be some hair left out. So with every other though, I'm gonna be doing more of a balayage type blending. So it does not go completely to the root, but we will get that nice brightness right around the front. So I again take another small slice here and we're going to give it a little weave. Let that drop down. And I actually weave this one a little bit finer than the one that was above it. And we're going to lay that there. And I'm actually going to start with this one that's going to be paneled right next to it, about 2 inches down from the hairline. And the reasoning for that is, again, I'm going to try and get kind of more of that blended. So she has the impact of the lightness around the front, but a nice blended root area. And that's what these brushes are so great for, because they do feather out nicely. And I'm almost doing a little bit of that W shape where I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher through the sides there and a little bit in the middle, making sure it's nice and diffused. No hard lines with that. And work her ends into there. Okay, so then with this, now that we have those two panels done, I'm going to come down, part out about 1/4 inch from that last panel, and we're going to pull that back out of the way so that she still does have a little bit of depth remaining even through that front section where we want it a little bit lighter. And again, that little bit, not super heavy weave, but a little bit heavier there. I mean, we know how to do that, you know, front hairline baby light so it blends well. And again, this foil is going a little bit closer up to the hairline. Making sure we get good saturation, but not over. We don't want to waste product by any means. Okay, so there's that one. And then we're going to go right below it, not leaving any hair in between. I'm going to pull that section and again, do a little bit of a finer weave than the section before. And we're going to start about 2 inches down. And I do typically leave the ends out so that I can kind of pull and get good tension while I'm doing this blending part, so things don't get, you know, jumbled up in there. And I work those ends in. Throwing combs around, that happens. Grab another one here, sorry. And then with hers, she does have that little bit of the widow peak there. So we're going to do this last little area very, very fine. Again, I'm pulling about 1/4 inch out, bringing it up. And this one right by her face, we're going to do more of the blended. So we're just doing, it's obviously a much smaller section, but I want to keep that, definitely that baby light. So nothing's too hard right around the hairline. We are going to be bringing him a little higher there. And with this last little section, we're going to do a tiny weave out of it, still leaving all those little baby hairs down there. It's going to be, you know, super annoying for her during the processing. But again, make sure, even though this is a tiny section, I'm still making sure it's nice and blended. I'm not going up too high with it. Okay, so that's how I typically do, you know, that nice brightness right around the hairline. Now we're going to be moving on to a little bit more of what's going to give us that balayage look kind of throughout, but again, nothing too heavy with it. You can see here, okay. Okay, like I said earlier, I do really try to make sure that with color, with the balayage, with you know, any treatment that's not a full heavy foil, I'm wanting to make sure it falls really, really nice with the hairline via tilt over. So she definitely has that center part. So with this, I'm sectioning out this back area, kind of just getting it out of the way. So off of her middle part, I'm going to come about 1/2 inch down because I do still want her natural. I want that depth falling down over the highlighted areas. So I'm going to flip that up. Sorry, I'm going to try and raise the camera a little here so we can get a better angle on it. Okay, so this is where the more like the blending balayage type of highlights are going to come into play. I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch section, and we're going to do a pretty heavy weave into it there. So we have, like I said, about a 1/2 inch section there. And then this is where we're going to do that little bit of back combing. I usually start about mid and come down. I'm really not trying to like knot the hair up a ton, just trying to get that diffused kind of look out of it. And I'm going to make sure it's pushed up nice there. Again, with this, we really are following her part. Nothing's coming down too much at an angle. And I kind of push those little hairs out of the way. And then with this, I'm going to start, you know, a good probably 3 inches down. Getting good saturation through that mids. I always like to add more product. It's much easier to add more than take away. And then again, we're going to go in with kind of that W shape, a little bit on the sides and then through the middle. And then because this brush is so nice and feathery on the ends, I kind of go backwards with it a little bit to make sure it's nice and soft there. But I do, as you can see, avoid any of those little hairs there that have been back.
I have a question, Ms. Webb. I noticed that you changed your pintail. Why did you change your pintail comb?
I dropped my other one, so I just grabbed a different one. Sorry. Okay. They're the same. They're just different colors. I just accidentally dropped it. So. Okay. Okay. No application reason at all whatsoever. Just usually for this, I do tend to always foil balayage anything. I prefer, you know, the metal ended combs with finer teeth on it. I feel like I just can get a little more accuracy with it that way and a little bit of a softer type back comb. Okay. So then we foil that up there, get this out of the way. And really on this side here, I'm only doing about 3 foils down. It's going to give that, again, that really soft, diffused kind of balayage look to it. So I'm going to go aim about 1 inch down from there. Get that section out of the way. We're going to do about a 1/2 inch parting there. And then weave that section out. So you can see it's about 1/2 and 1/2 there. Let that drop. And I do that little bit of back combing on the top. And then I typically do hold the hair kind of more that 90 degrees straight off the head up high and bring it down. I feel like that pulls those little hairs down a little bit more without, you know, kind of knotting them up completely.
Yeah. So do you know, Ms. Ware, where does the term balayage come from?
I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure where it comes from. It's been around for 1 million years. It basically just means kind of a gradient blending of colors. So with the balayage, you're going to have kind of the lighter colors down towards the ends. And because of the blending, you're going to kind of have the, you know, mid-tones through the middle.
Okay. So, yeah.
You know, you're going to have the lightest towards the ends.
Yeah.
That's the heavy. And again, kind of working up through the sides and then through the middle. Like I said earlier, you know, this is just a really, if you're not talking as much as I am, quick application. It's great for those, mid-tone to darker haired clients that want that little bit of pop of color, but they don't necessarily want, a full committal blonde type balayage into their hair. So I'm going down another inch from that. So we're going to be pulling that up. And then I always do, so here's her side foils. I always do make sure that I leave a little bit of her natural out against the foil. I just don't want it to feel like blonde hitting right up against that. Kind of take my 1/2 inch section. And do that, 1/2 and 1/2 weave. Because really on each side, it's only going to be about 3 foils on each side. Couple more once we get to the back, and I'll kind of show you my layout with that, how it's just a tiny bit different. Just so you can get that soft gradient there.
So when you tease the hair going down to the scalp, what does that do?
It basically just kind of breaks that hairline up, or not hairline, it breaks the hair up. So as like these little hairs are obviously as long as this. So when the hair falls, when it's finished and styled, those darker hairs will diffuse down into the lighter. So it just kind of helps prevent any hard lines, and just helps with the gradient of the color.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
And again, I don't go, down here, yes, I applied the color going straight on, but we're going to, kind of softly diffuse that through the middle, a little bit there, and I pull it up. And, typically a quote unquote balayage is more of a freehand, like painting technique. I've done, quite a few different balayage, lives like this. I kind of just wanted to show something a little bit different, which is nice, kind of that end of summer kind of color where they want that little bit of pop of blonde, but something a little bit more, muted and diffused throughout. So there we go. Literally, I only did 3 foils, 1, 2, 3 through that side section. I hear a bump, sorry. I'm going to turn her this way. And then we're going to find her original part line, which you can see there's this section that was from the original part line. We're going to again go section this out and pull it out of the way. And we're going to start in with our this out of the way here. Again, with about a 1/2 inch sectioning there. And we're going to weave it. So we're going to be about halving it, the section. Pretty heavy weave there. And her hair texture, this, my niece here, she has a ton of hair. Oops, it just dropped. And it is a little bit on the coarser side and pretty, fairly straight, just dried out. So sometimes the whole back combing, because it is so healthy, is a little more difficult just to get it to stay. But again, I place my foil right up in there, kind of push that out of the way. Start about midway down. Hit the side somewhat in that W pattern. And for this part, just remember, you don't need a ton of saturation of the whitener. We want it to have that more diffused look. And then I lightly kind of go in and just break up that line a little bit. But then we'll get a little more saturation down through the mids and ends there. And this color will look really nice with her. Again, it'll give that little bit of pop of brightness, but because she already had kind of that caramely tone balayage in there from a little while ago. It'll have a lot of nice, really nice blended tones. And it's, again, a good kind of end of summer type color for any client. A lot of, you know, the younger ones, or, you know, sometimes not. They haven't really gotten color throughout the summertime because they're outside a lot, but their ends are typically going to be a fair amount lighter than what their roots are anyway. So this is a nice way to get that, you know, kind of blended softness, kind of a transitional color for the seasons. I do have to say I'm very proud of her. I don't know if I've ever sat this long and she hasn't talked. Again, about midway down, and then, you know, obviously I'm doing some instruction here with it, so it's not the quickest application on here, but typically this type of application I can get done in 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the client's consistency.
It's pretty detailed.
I'm sorry.
It's pretty detailed. I mean, you're doing a good job.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And then we're going in with our last one, again, about an inch parting. And that's one thing with color, with the younger clientele, sometimes less is more. Not even the younger clientele, sometimes, you know, the older clientele, they just want something that gives that little bit of pop, like to have a different look. Oops, stopping. To have a different look, it doesn't always have to be like black to platinum blonde. Sometimes the subtle gives the best, you know, the most impact and payout for that client.
Yeah.
So this is always a good option for that. And this is something that can be done also. You know, if you have those clients that maybe need more gray coverage because it isn't such a heavy process. Sorry, my salon's actually in my home and the FedEx guy just arrived, so I think I'm getting product here. It's kind of loud there in the background, sorry. So this application, I do a lot of times with my clientele. When you know, I keep saying younger clients that, you know, that nice blended look, but I do have several clients, younger and older, that need that gray coverage. And this is a great technique, a great way to, you know, you can go on, put the color on the root area and then go through and do this application, and it doesn't really disturb that root color as much. I would typically still do my foil around the front, like leave that out if I was doing, you know, an actual root color on there for, you know, gray coverage. But this is a nice, easy application for that because you're not really, you know, compromising the root area at all with this. Okay, so again, 3 foils there, 3 foils here. We had 3 on each side around the perimeter and 2, 4, 6 on the front. So you're looking at right now, you know, less than what, 6, 12. You're looking about 20 foils. So in the back, obviously she does not have a middle parting. So I do it a little bit differently. I like to take where her 2 foils are here, and I actually give it a little bit of a V sectioning there. So that it kind of comes, sorry, I'm trying to avoid some of those little hairs there. Just so that she still has that hair that diffuses on top. Her part line does come back. Oops, I have her chair too low, sorry. Yeah. So her natural part line does fall to about here. So I want to make sure that I get a decent amount of her natural hair covering where the highlights are going to run from there. And then section that out. And so with this is basically going to be treated like 2 sections. So here's the point for that. We're going to pull this down, get that out of the way. Do that 1/2 inch sectioning there. Split it out, halfsies with a nice weave there. Grab a little. Again, start, midway, come in with that little on the sides, through the middle, and diffuse it up. And with her being a little bit, on the darker side, she's got a level 5 naturally. It's kind of hard to tell, like 4 or 5, maybe closer to 4 in the winter time. Her hair darkens up quite a bit. So I'm definitely not shooting for like a white blonde. We will get a nice blonde lift out of this, especially because, like I said earlier, the lightning powder is a blue based lightning powder, so it helps knock out any of the brassy tones and that kind of thing within the hair. Again, about 1 inch down, pull that section up, take another 1/2 inch, weave it out. I don't know if anybody's joined, but I'll kind of touch on the lightener again. And, just remember this has the Juvexin in it. The lightning powder also gives up to 9 levels of lift, and it has that blue base, which helps knock out any brass you can still get, depending on your level of lift you're going for, you don't have to shoot for those white blonde tones. You can definitely still get nice mid-tone, level 7, 8, 9, kind of caramely honey highlights without feeling like you have to lift completely to a white blonde. But this is our highest lift lightener, so you can get those true blonde tones with this lightener, just with the right level of developer and processing time. So 1, 2, and again, we're kind of sticking with that 3 foils for each section, again, except for that front. About 1 inch there, come down 1/2 inch and weave that out. I will say probably 60% of my clientele that I have are blonde. I do a lot of blonding, a lot of balayage, a lot of foil. But I love me a good dark haired client that still wants to maintain their dark, that just give it that little bit of pop, which is going to be so pretty in hers with just kind of those really nice diffused ribbons of a little bit lighter tone going throughout. As you can see, I really didn't explain it. Typically when I do my fold on the foil, I'll kind of show you here. I take this bottom and bring it right to kind of the highest point of where I highlighted through that midsection. And then I pull the foil sides in kind of at an angle, just so it covers those, but no lightener gets any higher through that area. So we have those 3 sections done there. So then we're going to move on and we'll have 3 foils here. Just kind of making sure I have it going. I really do want it pretty close to meeting where those other foils ended. It doesn't need to be exact by any means. But by doing that, these foils kind of follow each other and create those nice ribbons of color as it moves, you know, throughout the hair. And again, about midway. And I think I've gotten pretty good at guessing how much color I'm going to need for most processes. I think we're going to be pretty spot on with that. And just to reiterate, I did use the Shield additive in her hair. It's going to really help protect the bonds of her hair. There's no shifting, so you don't need to change your formulation at all when using the Shield additive, either, you know, whether it be with lightener, color, anything like that. You do not need to change your developer or formulation whatsoever. And again, it's 10% of your total formulation when using that. About a 1/2 inch sectioning, and you can clearly see here, based on that angle, it's hitting right about where that foil starts, and it's a little bit lower than this one, but that's just kind of because we're dealing with the back of the head there. A little more surface area. Again, getting really, really good saturation through the ends themselves, but a nice, really soft application, you know, through that top section there. Again, I kind of pull those in at an angle, leave that midsection out. And we're coming in. This will be our last foil here. And as you can see, there's a fair amount of hair that's going to be left down underneath. If you have those clients that really, really like that little bit of pop of color on the underneath, every now and then, like when they wear, you know, higher ponies or that kind of thing, I will sometimes, as I'm doing these perimeters, come down and put a few foils, you know, directly on their hairline. And if you are going to do that, I definitely would keep it with the angle of the hairline. Again, usually about 3 foils is enough just to give that little bit of impact and that brightness. With her, again, we had done kind of that caramely balayage on her not that long ago. And her hair is, you know, this level of darkness. So I definitely want the lowest maintenance possible for her. She's, again, obviously not coming in every 6 or 8 weeks to get her hair foiled or touched up, are you amazed? No. Trust me, even with my own kids, a couple of my daughters usually get to be my models, but other than that, it's like mechanics' cars never run, hairdressers' kids never get their hair done. When you've done it this long anyway, poor things. Maybe it's the same for my niece too. So this will be the last foil here. And when it comes to processing on her, unless I'm going for like typically for the super light blondes, I don't typically always process under heat. I actually I don't use a dryer, I use a roller ball, which is, you know, more of an infrared heat type system. I don't, like I said, I don't typically always process under heat, but just for time's sake, for the video here, I will pop her under. Mostly because I know for a fact her front pieces are getting nice and light, just because I know her hair and I know how it lifts. So I want to get this on the back and kind of accelerate that lifting on this. And then while she's processing, I am going to discuss just some of our other lightening options, a little bit about our color line, and some of our retail. So if you guys have any questions, please, you know, feel free to jump in, ask away. I am giving her just a little check here. As you can see, it's already getting to a nice kind of even lighter honey blonde right now. And I did only use 20 volume on her, just knowing that the application would take a little bit longer than usual, given the instructional time of this. So I am going to put her down and I'm going to move her to another area where we're going to put a little heat on her. Come on, nice. Sorry, I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of just move that out of the way. Bring you guys a little bit closer here. See what kind of angle I can get. Okay. So I am gonna just kind of tell you guys a little bit more in depth. Sorry, get that out of the way. So again, our lightning powders, what I used on her, has the Juvexin, clearly says it on there. All of our lighteners, color, developer, styling line, all of our smoothing, taming systems, everything does contain the Juvexin. That's kind of the key ingredient that really, you know, sets GK apart from other product lines, is that it has that in there and helps protect the hair from the core, helps restructure it. That's why it's the anti-aging protein blend, because it really does help, you know, restructure the hair and make it healthier, adds a lot of shine. Then we also have our lightening cream. As you can see, mine's about out, but I do have it on hand here. This one contains argan oil and acai oil, which are both super hydrating, super nourishing on the hair. This one here, none of our lighteners, other than the lightening cream, are really rated for on the scalp processing. If you have those clients that really want to be that on the scalp platinum blonde, this is amazing. I get really, really good results from this. The mixing ratio is a little bit different on this one. It's actually going to be 1 to 2. So 1 part lightening cream, 2 parts developer. With that, there's really no variation. It creates a really nice consistency. It's really creamy, really, really nice for application. And the hair, it doesn't, you know, you don't get a lot of like burning on the scalp or anything like that, because it is so gentle. Obviously, you know, do a test run on those customers that you've never done an on the scalp lightener with. Do a test patch area. Everybody's a little more sensitive. I'm super sensitive, and I've used this on the scalp on myself before and had no issues whatsoever. but I also use it just for generalized highlighting or lightening, because it does create a really, really pretty, nice, creamy blonde in the hair. It doesn't get that full 9 levels of lift. Usually I can get about 7 to 8 levels of lift with a higher volume. And that's one really great thing is you can use a little bit higher volume, 30, even 40 to get that level of lift without the hair feeling damaging because it has all those natural oils and stuff in it. Sorry, I'm kind of watching my watch there for timing. And again, with all of our color lighteners, everything, I don't know why I didn't grab it. So we actually have anywhere from 8 volume up to 40 volume, which allows really a customizable color for your clientele with our color line. I don't know if you can see up there, got all the colors up there. We have 86, 87 customized already pre-mixed colors, and they can be anywhere from semi-permanent if you're going to be using an 8 volume, demi with more the 10 volume, and then permanent with 20, 30, 40 volume from there. So with that, you can use as a toner or anything like that on top of your lightener. You can use to tone the colors with our color line. So let me make sure I have all the shampoos and stuff, and then I'll be right back to show you those. Sorry, I realized I did not have something over here to show you. So that's kind of, just a basic rundown of our lighteners. We also do have, I just don't have it on hand. I happen to run out, so I didn't grab it, obviously. We have our Miami Bombshell lightener, which is amazing. It's the one that's specifically designed for more of the balayage. It has an open air processing time, and it does get those, 7 to 8 levels of lift with using the higher volume, the 30 or 40 volume. It's really, really great if you do like to do more of the open air, like balayage, painting on techniques where you're not isolating with foil. You can use it with foil or with like the mesh or anything like that too. So I will move on and give, sorry, it's a warm day here where I live. Give a quick little rundown. I will start with kind of the staple within the line. That's our moisturizing shampoo and conditioner. Both of these also have the Juvexin. This is going to be a little bit more of a hydrating formulation, but it doesn't make the hair feel weighted down, doesn't make it feel heavy, anything like that. But it is super hydrating, super moisturizing. It's really, really good for those clients' hair that may be a little more compromised. When they come into you and you're like, I don't know if I really want to do color on them, get them on a good shampoo, conditioner regimen, styling. Our deep conditioner is great. But these are going to be just kind of more the generalized, what I sell the most of typically. And then for those clients that have a little bit finer hair, we have our balancing shampoo and conditioner. This is really great for the fine, thin hair. It's still really hydrating, has the Juvexin, so you're going to get that protein, the reconstructing factor, but it's going to be a lot lighter weight. They're not going to feel weighed down. They're not going to feel like over product-y or anything. Sometimes those finer haired clients should just have to be a little more careful. I have 3 daughters, and all 3 of the older ones, kind of when they hit that teenage stage and their hair gets a little oilier, everything's trying to balance out. The balancing shampoo is amazing for that, again, because it's still hydrating, but it doesn't add any weight, and it's very cleansing on the hair without stripping color or anything like that. And then I will move on. These here, if you have not used before, this is the UVA Shield shampoo and conditioner. I guess I could turn in there. Shampoo, conditioner. This one here, the Shield, next to the moisturizing, is probably my #1 seller. Most customers really, really love it. I live in the Midwest, Kansas area, actually. lot of sun. It's really, really super humid right now, but really, really dry in the winter. What the UV shield does is it helps add that UV protection to the hair, helps prevent fading from the sun. It also helps with some environmental protectant. If you have a lot of, environmental air issues, this is really going to help protect the hair, help keep the color from fading if they do color. But it's also really, really nice for those clients that have the overly compromised hair, and just seems to add a little bit more of that moisture and hydration to it. Then within the line, we also have our gold shampoo and conditioner. Sorry, I got caught off right there. So we also have our gold shampoo and conditioner. These are really, really nice. They have a little bit of a different scent. It's going to be a little more of that luxury type shampoo and conditioner. Again, it's kind of hard to see, but it does have, the little gold flakes in it. Has a little bit more of that hydration and moisture to it. It has a really, really nice scent from the natural oils and fragrances that are in our line. And that's something else I didn't really touch on earlier that I typically do at the beginning, is everything is sulfate-free, paraben-free, phosphorus-free. So we're not considered organic, nothing like that, but it definitely is free of a lot of, the impurities and things that can bother clients' hair and scalp. I was looking over, I must have sold it all. We also have our CBD line of shampoo and conditioner. It does have the CBD oil in it, and it is considered vegan. So it uses our V2, which is a different formulation of our Juvexin, to allow it to be technically vegan. Our Juvexin, although no animals are harmed or anything like that, it does contain lamb's wool, which is a protein that they found is small enough to actually penetrate the cuticle of the hair. So in order to make it vegan, it cannot have any animal byproduct whatsoever. So GK has found a way to formulate that protein and make it so it is 100% vegan, and that is what is in our CBD line. And the CBD is just, it's really good if you have any kind of scalp issues. There's a lot of research that's been done on CBD and the benefits of it. And so that's going to be in that shampoo and conditioner itself. Then we also have our anti-dandruff shampoo. It's really, really nice. It's called anti-dandruff. It contains zinc. So it's going to be really, really calming to the scalp. I would say that I probably have more clients that just get that, like itchy scalp when it's super humid and or super dry, that don't necessarily have dandruff. It's going to be kind of that medicated type shampoo to really help calm the scalp, but it's not drying at all, and it's not going to strip their color. It's still formulated with the same properties with the Juvexin, with all that. It's just going to be a little bit more calming with that medicated aspect of it. And then I will move on to our bombshell line. Like I said, we have our Miami bombshell lightener. It is going to be a violet-based lightener, open air processing. You can still get that super high level of lift out of it. This is our silver shampoo. Actually, that's for my retail shelf. So this is my back bar size. I use it all the time on fresh highlights where they don't really need a toner, but I just kind of want to knock out any of that little bit residual warmth or brassiness. At the bowl, I'll shampoo them, leave it on just for a couple minutes, but kind of saves that toning step. And as you can see, it is very, very pigmented. It's a very violet, kind of blue violet base pigmented shampoo. That does help tint the hair, and it's really, really nice for those highlighted clients as their service time progresses. They're not quite ready for a highlight or a retone, and it can just really help with the longevity of their color. One great thing about it is with a lot of silver or toning type shampoos, the pH level can be very drying to the hair. This has a neutralized pH level, so it's not going to strip the hair. That's not how you get the toning agent from it. It just has that direct pigment that really helps tone the hair, but it's also super moisturizing and hydrating. It's not going to dry the hair out at all.
Then,
yes.
It's Victoria. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Coming off of that pigment. On the color sealer, did you already cover that, or maybe I missed it?
No, I have not covered the color sealer, but I will touch on it for sure.
Okay, the question I have
Yes.
when you touch on it is, a question came up for me. Is that something you use primarily for darker levels, say a level 7 and below, or do you use it for all levels? Do you see it beneficial for blondes and highlights? That's my question.
The color sealer, I'll grab it and show it to you. So I use it really on any client, any type of clientele. I primarily really will push it or use it on, the more vibrant reds or violets or anything that has that higher pigment level that tends to fade a little bit quicker. All of our colors within our line do have really nice longevity and don't fade as fast as I've seen with other color lines, but this is really going to help seal that in, help seal the cuticle down, and it does add a small level of smoothness to the hair and helps eliminate a little bit of frizz. But I'll use it on blondes, especially if they're blondes that I tone, to really help maintain that tone in their hair a little bit longer. I have some clients that have that coarser hair texture that no matter what you do, their hair is going to fade quicker. The gray, silver tones, the color always fades a little bit quicker. This is a great add-on service. And I say add-on service, it is something that you add on to the service with an additional fee. So you have to make sure your client's okay with that, because it is not an inexpensive product to use. But pretty much any of my clients that have the more vibrant, sometimes the fashion colors or the vibrant colors, or even the ones that are a little bit coarser, but they want to be that darker, level 3, 4, 5, and their hair tends to fade a little quicker. It's great for that. But it really is an all-around product that can be used on top of any color application. Is that helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yes. Then I, of course, did not grab everything here. I think I have them here. So I am also going to touch on a couple different things. Another, kind of along the lines of the color sealer is the Lock Me mask. It is somewhat of a deep conditioning type mask. It's used specifically after one of our smoothing treatments that we do. But this is going to help lock in the color also and add that deep conditioning treatment to the hair, after your color service. If it's like winter and you feel like their hair is super duper dry and you just really want to rehydrate it, this is a great option. And it also helps lock that color in. And then within the Bombshell line, I'm not sure if you guys have seen them or not. We have a few different masks within the Bombshell line. One of them, which is my favorite, I use it on blondes all the time that want to help neutralize their warmth. This one here, it's called Ultra Blonde Bombshell Mask. And basically, at the shampoo bowl, you would do your normal shampoo. If you're doing this as a standalone treatment, I always use the pH shampoo to help neutralize the pH of the hair and kind of get that gunk, kind of clarify it so that it can take the mask nicer. If I'm doing it after just a highlight, I would just use the regular shampoo and conditioner, either the moisturizing. I actually currently have the UV on my back bar. And primarily that's because we get a lot of sun. It's really, really hot where we're at right now. So I like to have that little bit of added UV protection for that. So this one here is the Ultra Blonde Mask. I'm trying to get it to focus there. It is a little bit scary going on because it is kind of a darker pigmented type mask, but it gives that really nice kind of silvery neutral tone to the blonde, especially on those high lift blondes that this time of year, they're in water, they're in chlorine, they're going to the ocean and the lake and all those different places. This is a really great hydrating mask that's also going to help tone the hair. And then we have, along those lines, 2 actual pigmented toning masks. So the first one is the Red Red. If you can see here, it is very red. I have done it a couple times on my own hair. It's been a little while. Obviously, I'm pretty blonde. But this is red. It creates some really, really beautiful, true red tones into those. If you have those any of those like fashion color clients that, you know, they're not afraid, you've highlighted them out to blonde and they just want something a little bit different, these are some great options. It is a deposit only, it is non-oxidative, and it's hydrating, moisturizing for the hair. And what's great about these, as you know, with the red, if you apply it directly as the red, it is a really vibrant red, but it kind of fades. Usually after about 12 shampoos is when it'll start to fade. And it fades, you know, kind of variable through kind of down to like a light pinky tone. It's a really, really pretty color option. So when you apply it, any of these, you apply them and you let them process for about 20 minutes. And then our last one, I can't open for some reason. Oh, I haven't actually opened this one. This is the lavender color. It's kind of hard to tell. It's not going to be your true like purple lavender, like violet tone. It's going to be, you know, have a little bit of a winey undertone to it, but it is very, very lavender. It is, you know, very pigmented and really, really nice color option. And a lot of these, like the lavender or the red, I'll actually, you know, use on some of my younger clients that their hair may be already a lighter tone and they just want like a fun pop of color. Those are some great options for that to do. And then, you know, I'm out of it, but I always have this here on my backboard. This is the deep conditioner. It comes in a tub, you know, closer to this size, but I just always have this on my backboard. Our deep conditioner is amazing. It can help with the longevity of the color. Typically, if you're going to do a deep conditioning treatment, you would shampoo. If it's not after color, you would use your pH shampoo and then apply. I do typically apply the deep conditioner with a bowl and brush all over the hair if you're doing a true deep conditioning treatment. And then I put a bag on them and put them under heat for about 20 to 30 minutes, minimum of 15, just depending on how compromised, how dry their hair is. And a really great kind of intro, if you do the smoothing treatments, a really great intro for customers to kind of see how the smoothing is going to feel in their hair, is to do the deep conditioner. Usually I do about 20 grams and 4 to 6 squirts of our serum into the hair, or into that mix, that formulation, and then apply. And then again, apply heat, pull them out, blow dry. And I actually typically straighten if I do that treatment, just to really close that cuticle down. And usually for about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how often they shampoo their hair, they're really going to get kind of the effect, the smoothing effect of what it's going to feel like to have an actual smoothing treatment, whether it be, you know, the best, resistant, curly, any of those. It's going to really give, you know, that true smoothing effect. It's not going to necessarily give the curl reduction, but it does definitely give that, you know, frizz reduction and helps with the humidity factor. So that's kind of a great intro for those customers that are kind of on the fence of doing something like that. Any questions about color, shampoo, conditioners, any of those treatments? And I'll kind of quickly touch on the stylers, and then I'll probably check her because I think we're probably getting kind of close. Anything? No, I'm not. I can't even see how many people are on, but that's okay. Oh, there's a few of you. Hello, everyone. Okay, so we'll do a quick little touch on some of these stylers. I'll kind of start with what I use the most behind the chair, and what are some of my top sellers with my clients for sure. Also, I typically do start with showing this primarily because thermal styler is one of my very favorite products within the line. It is our heat protectant, and it also helps smooth the hair, and it can help reduce the blow dry time. This is an amazing, amazing product, super concentrated, doesn't take a lot of it. Typically when people purchase it, they're like, that's such a little tube, but it does last forever. And I kind of always talk about this almost like if you're a woman and you use, you know, a primer for your makeup, this is like a primer for your hair. And everybody's a little bit different on how they like to apply product. I almost always apply this before I apply anything else because it really does prime the hair for the other products and also helps with that heat protection at the core of the hair. And I have some clients don't necessarily blow dry. They let it dry, air dry, but then we'll always, flat iron or curl. And I still definitely push this, not push, but recommend that they use this because it is such a great protectant for the hair. And then next in line is for sure our leave-in cream. This here has the highest level of Juvexin of the stylers. So it really does help repair the hair and reconstruct and just keep it, protected throughout the day with, again, with the heat styling treatment, anything like that. Super concentrated, again, has the Juvexin in it. So that's #1 seller also that most of my clientele get, whether they wear their hair curly, where they wear it straight, flat iron, curl. That's going to really just help add a lot of shine to the hair and, keep that moisture in there. And then the serum is amazing, top seller. We call it the sweet mix. I typically will do a squirt of this and about 2 squirts of the serum and actually mix them together in my hands and then apply. And that's going to get the absolute highest level of Juvexin in there. And it adds a ton of shine. Just when they're mixed together, they kind of emulsify and just really helps the hair feel great. And then probably my next top, a couple of them, but we'll touch on the volumizer first. This is called the volumized fur. It is a liquid spray, super duper lightweight, but really concentrated at the same time. Does not take a lot. Typically, I use it on a lot of my clientele because it gives that slightest amount of hold factor, but it really, really does help plump the hair shaft, give it that volume. Typically, most of my clients, I'll do a squirt kind of on each side, just kind of off their part, and then one at the crown. I make sure I put it in when their hair's really, really damp, and then brush it through. And that's usually enough. If their hair's super thick, but fine, maybe they would want to, use an extra little squirt kind of through the sides or back. But it really does work through the hair nice. But most of my clients have that really, really baby fine hair. That's what they say they love about it, is it doesn't feel like they have product. Like a lot of volumizer products can feel a little heavy, kind of by the end of the day of wear. And then I was almost putting it away. The next one here is our dry shampoo. This is one I live with, swear by. I use it personally every night before bed, especially when it's super humid, Midwest area. It's hot, it's humid. No matter what you do, your head sweats at nighttime and, just with the humidity and moisture. This here is super duper lightweight. It doesn't have that, like powdery film to it. Especially you just want to shake it really, really well before you apply it. It has a wonderful, amazing scent to it. It smells really, really nice. So it kind of helps act as a natural deodorizer in the hair also. It's made with refined rice powder, so you're not going to get that gritty kind of texture into the hair, which this is, my clients that go 3, 4, 5 days sometimes between shampooing, this is kind of their do or die product for helping with the longevity of their style. And then another couple things here. The styling mousse. This one, I'm trying to get it to focus here. I'm trying to get out of it. I don't know if it will. This here is our styling mousse. This gives a really nice weightless volume and texture to the hair, but again, it doesn't feel producty. It says mousse, but it's not like your traditional styling mousse from back in the day. It doesn't feel sticky. It doesn't feel over producty. It just gives a really nice weightless finish to the hair, but kind of help hold the style in place, especially if you're doing like a curling iron curl, flat iron curl, any kind of formal styling. This is definitely my go-to for those customers that do like a little more of a styled look and they want that longevity of it. And then this is our Curls Define Her. It is really, really nice. It adds, let's see, I'm trying to look at the description exactly. Soft, smooth, defined curls. And it really, really does. It also has that jubexin in it. So we all know with curly hair, you get a lot of frizz. It doesn't always, want to maintain that curl pattern and shape if, they don't use something that has a lot of hold and sometimes that kind of crunchy feel to it. This is not going to do that. It's a really nice, soft, pliable finish in the hair. And they can use it whether they're just letting their hair air dry or if they're going to use a diffuser, and it's going to help cut that frizz down and maintain that kind of pliable curl. And then you may see them hiding up there. We did have some hairsprays, but they're currently not in production. So just kind of ignore those. I didn't want you to think I wasn't showing anything there. And this here is our Work It paste. It's kind of like a shaping wax. It's great for, the men with the shorter hair. I have a lot of women with shorter hair that use it also. And it's going to be really pliable too. It gives a good hold depending on how much product you use, whether you put it in wet or dry. It's not super duper shiny, like a waxy finish, but it's not dull either. It's kind of that middle of the road finish, which is really, really good. And it gives that good hold factor. And then this is another treatment that I kind of meant to touch on. This is our fast blow dry. This is an amazing add-on service for really any client. It helps cut the blow dry time substantially. And like I said, it is an add-on service. So it's something, that you're talk to your clients about. And it can kind of also mimic what a smoothing would be as far as cutting the blow dry time and helping to cut frizz and add smoothness to the hair when blow drying. But this here is another one that I use quite a bit. I use it in a lot of my blondes where their ends, they feel okay, but they may just feel a little bit compromised. I use that so that it really does cut their blow dry time, which just, cuts down the amount of heat that's going to be on their hair.
Lindsay, one question for you on that. First of all, I love fast blow dry. It's one of my favorite add-ons. When you are discussing that with the client, how do you describe what they're going to experience? Is it going to be a little express treatment for smoothing and frizz? How long it lasts? I think that's always a question that I get, and I'd like to hear how you describe it to a client.
Typically, I don't always wait for my clients to ask me like, hey, what do you think? I'll just say, hey, here's this fast blow dry. We haven't done it on you before. I know you kind of talked about maybe wanting some smoothing or some, I'll just kind of introduce it to them. And I typically will just tell them, it's going to add a lot of shine. For those clients with a ton of hair, it's a great add-on because they're the ones that are like, oh my gosh, my arm's going to fall off. And depending on their hair texture, their consistency, it can cut their blow dry time by, 25 to 50%. And I find in most of my clients that lasts around 4 to 6 weeks, depending on their shampoo cycle. If they're every other day shampooers, it's going to only last about 4 weeks at most. If they're, 3, 4, 5 day shampooers, it's going to last, closer to that 6 week mark for sure. But yeah, I just usually typically touch on, it's going to speed the blow dry time. It's going to add a lot of shine and help cut the frizz, especially in, I don't know where you're from, but out here it's super duper humid. And so it really does help, just give that little bit of humidity protection because it actually is helping to seal that cuticle down. And that's one reason it decreases the blow dry time is because it's sealing that cuticle so your hair can't absorb as much moisture. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not marketed necessarily to help protect color, but I love this on my blondes because it cuts their blow dry time, reduces the amount of heat. And I do feel like it kind of locks in those toners also onto their hair and just helps dry it with a lot more shine.
What city are you in? What city are you in?
I'm sorry, it's cutting out. Say that one more time.
What city are you in?
Oh, Topeka, Kansas. I don't know if you're familiar with the Midwest at all. About an hour from Kansas City, if that's helpful. It's just like 90% humidity here all the time. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick peek at her hair real quick. And then I can answer any more questions if we have them. Okay. All righty, I am gonna go ahead and pull her over here. You can come on over, please. I did not do my dishes, so we'll just kind of set this out of the way. And we did just trim her not that long ago, so that'll cut out a step here for the finishing. I'm gonna move some things here. Sorry, give myself a little more room. And again, on her, you know, we were not going for that crazy, like heavy blonde, high impact, but you will definitely notice, you know, kind of those ribbons of the blondie. She'll definitely be a little bit lighter around the front section for sure too. And this service on its own, you know, obviously if I wasn't doing the instructional side of it, I probably may have actually bumped her level of developer up to 30 volume just because I would have been able to process it a little bit quicker. But again, today we did the 20. So back out of the way. Sorry. There you go. Is that okay? She's so compliant with that. Get the water to warm up a little so I don't freeze her. And after any lightener, I do almost always do 2 shampoos just to make sure we get all of it off of there. First shampoo I'm going to be doing with the UV. Like I said, that's just kind of my standard on the back bar right now, given that it's summertime. And with this service, I mean, she does have a lot of hair. Typically in the salon, I would have her in and out probably hour and a half, 2 hours max, depending on if we were trimming or not, if that kind of gives you an idea of, you know, application and processing time. And for the second shampoo on her, doesn't really need it. I'm really liking the tones that she has going on here, but I'm going to use the violet shampoo just so you can kind of see, or the silver, I'm sorry, silver shampoo. It's a violet color, so that's where that comes from. And I will say, you know, you have clients at home that will always ask, now, do I need to use a violet shampoo? And if they already have one at home, I tell them, you know, you can, but I almost always try and get them to consider buying, getting the Bombshell, the silver shampoo. And mostly is because it's not going to strip the color. I'm gonna pull this a little closer. It's not going to strip the color or the toner or anything like that that's in the hair because it is more of a neutral pH. So it's not going to lift the cuticle. See, it's pretty pigmented there. And if I was using it as a true like toning type treatment, I would definitely leave it on, you know, 5 to 10 minutes in the bowl, sometimes a little bit longer if I'm feeling like they have true like brassiness to their hair. But if that's the case, then I'm probably gonna actually just step into using a toner instead of the silver shampoo for that. Good thing she's tough-headed. I'm a aggressive champ. I like to get in there, make sure everything's nice and clean. And again, make sure we rinse really well. Bubbles go down a little. Sorry, are you okay?
You can see she's got a lot of hair.
She does have a lot of hair, that is for sure. All right, of course, for the class, I forgot to open my new bottle of conditioner. My hands are wet, it's hard to get it open there. There we go. It's kind of a safety thing with these bottles so they don't like explode in shipping. If you ever get them and you have a hard time opening, you just kind of hold this ring down below, but obviously with wet hands, that's not the easiest. And, you know, we did do the back combing in her hair, but I really try and make sure I work any knots out pretty good at the bowl with the conditioner. Her hair does not knot up exceedingly bad, like some clients do. And she's tough, so I can just, you know, pull right through it, honey.
So you don't leave the conditioner on that long, huh? Pretty much.
No, I mean, not necessarily. It's not like the deep conditioner. You know, I make sure it's worked through well and saturated, and then you can leave it on longer if you choose to. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's a cat. Squirting anything. I'm gonna shut this over here. So. Hope you guys couldn't hear that. I do live in the country. Not a lot around me, and there's one of our outdoor cats was being needy and meowing very loud into the window. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I heard it.
Sorry about that. Then I'm just going to towel dry her really, really well, get all that heavy moisture out, and then we will go into blow drying, getting her all finished up here for you guys. And I'm going to start, like I said earlier, with the thermal, just kind of, I typically, like, I don't go right at the root area, but I go kind of, you know, mids to ends, and then definitely as we, you know, dry it, it'll rush through and kind of work its way down. It's a really kind of a thinner viscosity to it, so it does work through the hair really, really nice.
Which product was that you put in?
That was the thermal styler.
Okay.
And then I'm going to use the leave-in cream with just a couple squirts of the serum. It looked like I was using a lot. It's just a new bottle, so it's really only about 1 pump of leave-in cream with the serum. And I'm actually not going to use any hold type product in her hair. You know, low or no maintenance kind of gal, so we don't need anything with a ton of hold factor to it. And typically with these, you know, thicker ones, we're going to do a rough dry, and then I'm going to section it out and, you know, brush through it as we dry it to get it nice and smooth. And of course, all of my tools are also GK. This is our blow dryer. It is really, really nice blow dryer. I mean, obviously it'll be loud for us while I do this, but it isn't like crazy, crazy loud. And it really does help dry the hair really nice and smooth. It's ionic and infrared, so it's not going to ever overheat. And it's going to help. It really does dry the hair quite a bit quicker. Again, I usually go in and just kind of do a rough dry just for quickness. And a lot of times by doing that, a lot of those, you know, if you're not going to be cutting after, sometimes actually drying the hair, even if there is still some tangles from that back combing, actually drying it first, it's a little bit easier to get the knots out. And I'm just going to kind of pull out a section out, a couple different sections here. Try and pull those tangles apart for her so I don't rip it out completely. And I'm gonna assume, you know, everybody knows how to blow dry, has their own technique and way of doing it, so. Kind of hard to tell because it's not completely dried out yet, but you can see how nice and smooth it is. And you can definitely, you know, kind of through this area would have been one of the lower sections of highlight. You can definitely kind of see that really nice kind of diffused lightness through there. Again, there are still a few little tangles in here just from the back combing, but that's one reason I typically dry it out first, is because those will just fall right out as we dry it. I can get our hair to separate out again.
It's looking great. It's looking very good.
Yes, thank you. This is one of those kind of, like I said, low maintenance techniques that I really, really enjoy doing, but you still get that impact from it for sure. Moving on to the last section here.
Wow, that front looks killer.
Okay, we do have her pretty much completely dry now. And we're gonna pretend that I flat ironed her hair because I'm actually gonna curl it, but I don't feel like you guys probably want to sit on here for the next 20 minutes for that part. But I will definitely turn her around in the good lighting so you can kind of see dimensionally how it's all laying. And then I will post the pictures of it curled and everything after. And this, like I said, this is my niece. I think primarily you usually wear your hair straight, right? But she does do a really nice job of curling her hair. So I kind of want you guys to see texturally how that'll look too, because that is a style I know if she's going and doing something fancy, she does usually curl it. So first off, I'm gonna put her down a little. I'm gonna bring the camera in closer. One fun thing with this is it's going to give her, dimensionally some different options with her style, because she does play a lot of sports. So she definitely wears her hair up quite a bit too, which, if her hair is up, it definitely has a little more of that light, that lighter appearance to it, but still nice and dimensional. She's not looking like a platinum blonde. Like I said earlier, I really was aiming more for kind of that light honey caramel blonde. I didn't really ask her what she wanted. That's just kind of what I decided. So, and then as you look through it, I'll kind of bring her around. You definitely see some really nice dimension within the color. You tilt your head over. But again, you can see it gave that pop of that blonde around the front that so many of them are wanting these days. But right on her part line, it has that really nice darkness and dimension. But if she opts to, kind of do a half up, half down, anything like that, you definitely see the brightness, kind of those ribbons of the lighter color running throughout. And that's what makes this such a, kind of a non-committal type balayage color. Like it's going to last even longer than a traditional balayage, just because you really don't have a touch-up factor to it. Turn this on. Does anybody have any questions now that we're, kind of finishing up here? You can see from that lighting just a little bit differently. Still kind of nice lightness going down through the ends. So I'll show her from the front there. I'm sure she's gonna love that. See, really from the front, it does have some nice lightness around there. It's kind of that full effect by being light and then kind of the darker throughout. So any questions, any comments as I'll probably let you guys go, finish up here, give her a little bit of wave, and I will for sure post after this. I will, tag GKHair on Instagram. My Instagram is the.sunroom studio. If you want to look at that a little bit quicker, I'll have it posted in the next probably 20 minutes or so. So, it's great getting to show you guys how to do this technique. Again, through my Instagram out there. If you have any questions, please don't feel free to reach out, and hopefully you'll tune in again. So thank you. You ready, Nice? Do you like it? Yeah. Okay, she's happy. That's all that matters.
Thank you, Lindsay. Great class.
Thank you.